What is up, awesome people? And welcome to my review on Pokemon Sun and Moon. Yes, this will be a pretty laid-back, non-scripted review, so it may be a little bit iffy there and very non-connected like most reviews. But I thought, hey, it's going to probably take me a week and all that to get a review written up and everything, so I thought I'd do it in a podcast instead. So there will be a bit of a warning, there will be spoilers, so if you haven't played this game and you don't want to be spoiled, best to go play the game or wait until you play the game before you hear my thoughts on Pokemon Sun and Moon, because I will be including some spoilers. So having said that, the only people that should be viewing this are those who want to be spoiled or have already seen the game or played through. So without further ado, let's jump into my thoughts on Pokemon Sun and Moon, because there is quite a lot I have in regards to this review. Alright, so the first thing I want to talk about is the way the game looks, sounds, and plays, because I thought, hey, everyone cares about that stuff. So anyways, overall, this game is absolutely gorgeous. It looks gorgeous, it sounds gorgeous. My major gripe though is they removed the benches, being able to sit on them. In Pokemon X and Y mainly, you could sit on these benches and the camera would pan out and show you the gorgeous landscape around you. They've taken it out in the game that needs it the most. There is such gorgeous landscapes and you could just sit there and gaze at it for so long. But that's the thing though, you can't take it in because the benches are gone. I kind of feel there's some areas where you could almost sit on a bench, have the camera pan out, and you could almost sit at it and it'd be almost like a painting, like a masterpiece. But there's just no way to enjoy it. I don't know, that's just me personally, but I just feel that just this need to have a way of taking it in better. But other than that, as I said, like, it's absolutely gorgeous all around. The landscapes are absolutely breathtaking. This is the best looking Pokemon game we've had so far, and I thought Pokemon X and Y and Oris looked so good. No, Sun and Moon took that even further. The character models definitely are a huge improvement, a huge reminiscent back to like Colosseum, Gale of Darkness, and Pokemon Revolution. Very human-like in models as well, the way they act, the way they look and everything, it's absolutely spot on. That was a huge improvement that the Pokemon games definitely needed. Taking it even further is of course the omnidirectional movement, so instead of walking in like 8 different ways, you can move in all type of directions now thanks to moving from the directional D-pad on the 3DS on towards the analog stick. Did take a little while to get used to that because I was always a D-pad player. I never usually used the analog pad unless I had to. But now moving from the D-pad onto the analog, as I said, it did take quite some time to get used to. But it actually feels quite fluent, and you just gotta hope your analog stick is working, because if your analog stick ain't working, you ain't moving in Sun and Moon, unfortunately. So yeah, it's kind of glad that I upgraded my 3DS before going on to Sun and Moon, because my analog stick is a bit mucked up after egg breeding in Pokemon X and Y and Oris. Wow, that really did a number on that. So yeah, make sure your analog stick is working, because otherwise, as I said, you just won't be able to move, which is kind of one of those, I guess, downsides. You are forced to use the analog stick, so if that's broken, then I don't know what you're going to do there. Moving on to that as well, this is kind of like a negative to how gorgeous everything looks, is yes, there is actually lag issues. I was actually speedrunning on the Japanese version, and I could just tell when I was using the Taurus Poké Ride, you could see the slowdown. It went from 60 frames down to maybe like 40 or something, and it does make a bit of an issue when you are speedrunning, because obviously you're going to move a bit slower. There is a huge amount of lag in totem battles. There is a bit of lag, actually not a bit, there is a lot of lag in double battles. I think the main reason why they removed triple battles in Pokemon Sun and Moon, and yes, that is removed, is because of the lag issues. I would hate to see triple battles being played in Pokemon Sun and Moon. It's mainly because, as I said, due to the huge graphical update that they've put onto Sun and Moon, that would put a huge amount of strain on a normal 3DS. Yes, I am playing on a normal 3DS. I'm not too sure if there will be lag issues on a new 3DS due to the new 3DS having better processing. I'd assume that it probably would remove the lag issues, but on a normal 3DS, there is a lot of lag, and at times it's kind of infuriating, especially in tournament battles, and when you definitely are speedrunning, you lose about 5 seconds at the very most. It seems very minor if you're playing casually, but in speedrunning, that's a huge amount of time loss. So the other thing, well, speaking of things that are like excellent looking, the Pokemon. As I said, for the starter Pokemon when they were revealed, it's going to be really hard to choose who my starter Pokemon was going to be. I was kind of judging them on their final evolutions. When they came out, it was kind of like, oh wow, this is definitely going to be hard. I've used all 3 starter Pokemon. Texio was quite fun to use. Incinerator was really hard to use, but at the same time, I really love Incinerator. I love his Z move. Oh god, I can't remember at the moment. I use it very little. But overall, Incinerator is so fun to use. It's absolutely cool to use, especially Darkest Lariat looks so cool to use. And Primera, I haven't quite gotten there yet because I've died every time before I've gotten to that stage in the speedruns. But it's definitely one of the strongest, I could say that. So anyone who started off with Populo or wants to start off with Populo, yeah, it's going to be quite strong. And the fact that the signature move for Primera is a burning move as well, yeah, that's kind of quite strong. And it learns some very decent moves too, but overall in their designs are really cool. And even going down, there are a lot of Pokemon as well I kind of drew to because of their designs. Stuffle was one of them actually. At the start I was kind of like, I don't really like this Pokemon very much. It's kind of mid to me. But that's definitely a Pokemon that's grown on to me over the time. I was actually doing some conceptual drawing for my study in regards to work. And Stuffle was one of the Pokemon I ended up drawing. It's just, I don't know, it's just so cute. And for those of you who tuned in my podcast as well for Pokemon Sun and Moon would have also known that I was kind of drawn to a lot of types or Pokemon that I normally wouldn't draw to. We had the Grubbin line, Grubbin, Charjabug, and Vikavolt. I actually went through Pokemon Sun with these Pokemon. Although I do regret going through with the Vikavolt because it took me most of the game before I could actually get that Pokemon. So yeah, it was kind of weird. But even that as well, it was kind of like you go from Charjabug, who was a physical type user, then you get Vikavolt, then becomes a special type user. So you're stuck with all these physical moves on a special attacker. It's like, that's kind of annoying. I mean, I guess at the same time, another thing that comes with Pokemon Sun and Moon is a huge kind of difficulty spike as well of the games. I've actually criticised Pokemon Sun and Moon for being too easy. And then Oris felt a bit easier compared to Ruby and Sapphire. But when Sun and Moon comes along, I was playing through personally and just kind of chilling at my own pace there. I got to a stage, even just being overpowered at one point, you end up becoming underleveled before you know it. It's like, whoa, when did that happen? The huge difficulty spike. It's like, what? I haven't seen difficulty spike in a Pokemon game in ages, so that was indeed welcome. So anyone who's like new to the Pokemon games, you're probably going to see a huge difficulty spike and think, oh, these Pokemon games are hard. Well, let's just say that wasn't around for Pokemon X and Y, and I don't think Oris had it either, or I didn't feel a difficulty spike in Oris anyway. So yeah, that's definitely a thing as a difficulty. Very, very welcome. I do welcome that back. I guess they've kind of heard people complaining about the difficulty maybe? I don't know, but I definitely felt a bit of a challenge for once, which was extremely nice. Heck, even going through a speedrun, I've had to reset a few times because the first trial captain, Hala, has knocked me back a few times. And then we get to Mallow, I'm only using one Pokemon, of course, for speedrunning, and then I just died to that. I was like, oh, I need to use items like X Defense for once. Normally I don't need to use them because the game's not challenging enough. So just little things like that has definitely added to the difficulty. But I think I was originally talking about the Pokemon designs before I digressed. There's so many like Pokemon that are really interesting. Rockruff line is really interesting. Midday and Midnight form. Wishy-Washy is probably one of my more favorites, especially when you get to the Totem Wishy-Washy. Just the whole build-up to it is like, damn, that is awesome. There's no other way to describe it, actually. I think that was almost my exact words. You start off with like the solo form Wishy-Washy is going through, surfing down the river, and then finally it starts raining, it starts thundering, and you get to the final puddle of water, and then this massive school form Wishy-Washy just jumps out the water and almost looks like it's going to eat you in the cinematic. And that's one thing Pokemon Sun and Moon actually does bring to its graphics. There's a lot of cinematics, a lot of not cutscenes are uncuttable. But also, having said that as well, as an RPG, I kind of feel that the Pokemon games need to add a bit of a skip function, kind of similar to how Kingdom Hearts, you can skip a lot of the text going on there or cutscenes by hitting the start button. I kind of feel especially when I've played the game so many times as well, I kind of feel there should be parts where you can skip certain things, because after a while, especially some of the dialogue in the game as well, a lot of it is quite repetitive, especially bloody Lily's dialogue. I wish there was a way of skipping it. I kind of hope down the track they do add a bit of a skip function, because if you are kind of playing through the game once again, the dialogue is pretty stale after a while, and it's like, I don't care anymore, I just want to skip it, I just want to press the A button. Oh, yeah, that's just one thing I need to throw in there. But overall, the cinematics in the game is absolutely breathtaking, especially when you go on the boats going between islands. The conversation between Hao and the protagonist, it's almost moving in a way, and near the end of the game as well, there's a lot of the cinematics is extremely touching on the heart and kind of almost tear-jerking too. I know it didn't sound like it in the walkthrough, but I was actually quite touched, but I was trying to keep at the same time an entertainment role of, I hate Lily, get her off the screen. But no, that was something quite tear-jerking, I will admit. But let's just move on to the characters, because yeah, I think we need to talk about them. I will go back to the graphics and everything, but I think we need to talk about the characters for a little bit. So I'm going to start off with Lily, because I just mentioned her. Yes, she's quite annoying, especially at the beginning of the game. When I'm speedrunning through this, it's like, oh, I've got to smash the A button a little bit faster on her text. Thankfully, in the Japanese version, I don't need to really worry about the dialogue from Lily so much. Also, having said that as well, I hated Lily for the first half of the game. Once you start getting into the story and learning more about Lily's and her background with the Aether Foundation, I'm trying to try not to spoil too much, but I'm assuming everyone has seen the game, so would know that the Aether Foundation isn't all that they're cracked up to be. So once you find out the relationship between Lily, Gladon, and Lucamine, it's like, yeah, just give me a second to clean up my brain, which has just landed on the wall. It's the biggest plot twist I've seen so far in Pokemon. It's absolutely awesome, and I'm so thankful, because again, criticizing Pokemon X and Y for how bland the story was, it was quite predictable. You could tell that Lysander was the villain. You didn't see the Aether Foundation being the villains as well. I kind of actually speculated in my podcast saying the Aether Foundation may not be all that they're cracked up to be. True to that, but I didn't expect the plot twist that we got. Obviously, that Lucamine, who is the president of the Aether Foundation, has a daughter and son. Gladon being the son and obviously Lily being the daughter, they're both fighting against Lucamine to try and change her ways, because she was after all the Pokemon. Obviously, once you figure that out and Lily goes on this whole train of thought, trying to convince her mother to go different ways, she tries to get stronger, to try and obviously to stop what she's doing. But at the same time, while she does have a nice character development the second half of the game, I just don't care. I think the main reason why I mainly just didn't care was because she wasn't a Pokemon trainer. She was kind of getting stronger in a emotional sense, rather than a Pokemon sense. It's kind of weird. I think, that's what I said, I think that'd be the main reason why I just didn't like her. She's just not a Pokemon trainer, she's a normal human being, which almost just doesn't exist in the Pokemon world. Most of the people we come across have their own Pokemon or a Pokemon trainer. Lily's just the black sheep almost. I extremely love Gladon. I actually kind of connected more with Gladon because obviously he had his own Pokemon. He was joined Team Skull in order to get stronger. He needed to get that stronger so he could take down his mother, of course. That was more relatable and I could get on board with that. And not to mention as well, he's part of Team Skull. At the beginning, when you first met him on your way towards the second trial, I do believe it is, he's made out to be part of Team Skull. And you think, oh my god, he's going to be a big part of the story, he's going to be a big villain. And then as you get onto the story, you kind of realise he's more of an ally rather than a villain, which was the huge plot twist as well, besides the other big plot twist that, as I said, maybe clean up my brain afterwards. But no, Gladon was absolutely huge, and during that whole ordeal as well, by the time it's all over, he gets his Savaru as well, which means at the same time, while he grew as a character, getting stronger and actually learnt to take people in and all that, at first he was really strict on Hal and saying, I just don't like you you're not strong, you don't take things seriously. And at the end, he was quite friendly towards Hal and really started to show a soft side, which was really nice. So his character development was extremely awesome as well. As I said, I still kind of prefer Gladdon over Lily, maybe because Gladdon was a Pokemon trainer. As I said, it could be just me, that mainly because Lily wasn't a trainer, that I just felt, don't like Lily at all. But going back to Lily as well, the character development there was definitely more of a emotional or, I guess, mental state as well. In the second half as well, you could see her, she's actually starting to get in there, she's starting to face her fears. At the beginning of the game, she just couldn't handle, like, even just staring at Pokemon. The bunch of Spearows coming down, they attack Nebby, the Cosmog, and all she could do was just stand there, all frozen up. Yet by the end of the game, you could see her, she was running through the bridge, and a pack of Murkrow come down and swoop her, and she just walks by them like they're nothing. So the huge jump there in personal growth definitely was welcomed, I guess. It gave Lily some type of personal quality there I could like. And near the end as well, she was able to face her mother and say, look, what you're doing is wrong, I don't agree with this, stop this, mother. But of course, what can she do? She's got no Pokemon. Then by the end of it, the quote by Lucamine was definitely one, as I said, definitely brought a tear to my eye, was, when did you come so beautiful? Because she gained personal strength in order to face Lucamine on, and at the same time, I guess, when you've just lost it all, Lucamine, I guess, definitely turned over a new leaf. So let's talk about Hal as well, because I feel Hal was definitely interesting. At the start, I thought he was going to be another one of those, one of those rivals that, you know, they're really easy to take on, really carefree and all that. But again, as the story went on, Hal really started to show quite a nice personality, very carefree, as I said, quite similar to how all of the rivals who are quite new to everything kind of go about. But then you find out that Hal actually failed to beat his grandfather, Hala, in the trial captain thing. So he lost, and that's why he's taken on a bit of the carefree thing. And we also learned as well at one point when Hal was growing up that Hala scolded him a little too hard, and Hal, just being a baby of course, went off crying, and then since then Hal has taken it easy on him as well. So I guess Hal is one of those carefree slow learners in a way, but he really does grow, kind of similar to how Wally started off. He started very cowardly at the start, and then at the end of Oris, you could see he was standing like quite confidently. He threw his Pokeball with a lot of confidence as well. Yet at the beginning of the game, he was very, shrugged over and everything. The way he talked as well was quite stuttery, and near the end, it was full sentences. Kind of going along the lines of showing us that he's improved rather than telling us, which is something I'm going to lead back to Lily with. Rather than showing us, well, as I said, they showed us at the end of the game, but at the beginning of the game, they kind of didn't show us this, they told us this, which again kind of irritates me in a way, was all the dialogue. I needed dialogue at times too. So that's about the only part I give a negative to in regards to characters at times, was Lily, they just told us rather than showed us. Until near the end of the game, unfortunately. I'm going to stop to talk about Lily. It's just so, I could do a whole video on Lily at this point. She's just annoyed me so much. Alright, so let's go on to Professor Kukui, and at the same time as well, I'm not going to go through every character as well, I'm just going through the noteworthy ones. So Professor Kukui, oh my goodness, I love this professor. One of the most, most lovable professor by far. Instead of being a professor tucked away in his lab all day, Kukui actually goes out into the field. I mean, heck, even when you're introduced to him as well, he's right out there as well, the way he speaks, like, woo, wah! And when you go to his laboratory as well, he's like going full at it with a Rockruff, and I don't mean that in an innuendo as well. I mean, he's in it, he's letting the Rockruff tackle him and everything, and boom, 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 beating him up. It's like, oh wow, I can't imagine any other professor doing that. I mean, Professor Sycamore was a little bit onto the field, but Professor Kukui is just going at it with you. He's almost traveling with you on your adventure as well, almost pushing the story as well, especially when you get into, like, I think it's almost the second half of the story. you then learn that Professor Kukui is trying to change old traditions. Instead of making it so strict and everything where you had to defeat the island challenge and everything in order to progress as a trainer, he kind of took away that strictness and made it very laid back as well, so you didn't have to beat the island challenge or anything like that. You could then go to the Pokemon League. Heck, he was even talking about allowing the Team Skull Grunts challenge the Pokemon League, since they did fail their island challenges. Well, most of them did anyway. So he's almost creating, like, pulling down those boundaries and making it easier for trainers to come on board, otherwise they turn out like Team Skull. So that was quite major. And also the little twist there where he's like the battle, I forgot what it's called, like the Battle Royale champ or something like that. Very wrestler-like. It was kind of like when he did finally find out, it's like, oh, I totally knew it. He was the Royale champ. It's like, I just can't go over how just lovable Professor Kukui is. He's definitely one of my favorite professors out of this entire Pokemon series. Alright, so we have Team Skull. Oh, I love these guys. I love Team Skull. They're definitely my favorite villains, and I did actually say in my podcast that these guys will probably become my favorite villains, and they definitely are. Oh, just the way that they're depicted. They're numbskulls, but they're lovable numbskulls. It's just their personality is so lovable. They like try and cause all these troubles, in the end it just backfires, and they just don't care. And then when you get to like their headquarters, there's like a little part in the headquarters where you go through and you have to find out all these notes about Team Skull and then do a quiz in order to see Guzmos. And one of the things that tricked us for a while was you had to answer all these questions, and at the end of it, instead of saying yes, you had to say no, because a Team Skull member never follows, never says yes or anything, never complies or anything like that. He says a big fat no all the time and shakes his head. I just find that somewhat, I don't know, likable in a way. It's like they just don't care. Just this weird personality, but I reckon they're a bit more likable than Team Rocket. It's just something I think almost wordless there on how to describe them. It's just, why can't every villain be like Team Skull? And a huge plot twist at the end as well with Team Aether as well, finding out that Team Skull was actually on board helping the Aether Foundation with the Ultra Beast. Was like, I couldn't imagine Team Skull having the brains to do that, which makes me wonder, was Guzmos the actual head of that plan, or was Lucamine the actual head of that plan? And then of course we've got the Team Skull admin, Plumera. Very similar to Team Skull, very tough when it needs to be, but when it comes right down to it and things get serious, she really does have that soft side. I mean, she even says to Lily when you're going to rescue Lucamine and Guzmos from the Ultra Beast world, I may have been rough on you at the start, but you seem like a really good person, and gives you the Poison Z at that point. It's like, they really do have a soft spot when needed. I like that. I like seeing both sides of a person, whether they be depicted as a villain, just seeing that other side where they're all nice. I wish more games did that, instead of just showing the full evil side of a villain, unless they're like, psychopaths or something like that. It's just nice to see them just being normal for once, just showing that they really do have a good side. It's just circumstances that have just made them the villains, and I kind of feel this is what Team Skull is. It's just unfortunate circumstances have just led them to be street punks. And as I said, I'm pretty sure they became Team Skull because they failed their island challenge. They can't have a Z ring. So what else can they do? They join a street gang and try and comply to their own rules, because they don't fit in society's rules where they have to be part of the island challenge of a Z ring to be considered Pokemon trainers. And that's where the whole stigma of Professor Kukui just trying to tear it down and just get rid of the boundaries between the two of them. So that's definitely one thing I really did enjoy about Team Skull. And of course we have Guzma. Guzma. Gotta beat him down, gonna beat him down. I swear, I actually did say, a villain should be like Giovanni from First Gen. Gotta have that huge mystery behind him. They're seen as the Pokemon villain, and then you find that there's just something else to them. Guzma is probably the closest we've had to Giovanni. I love it. He just seems like the leader of the gang, and then you find out that he's got his other agenda with Lucamine, but he ends up getting pulled along, and then finds out he's in way over his head, and he admits it. He's a villain who acts tough, but again, when it comes right down to it, I'm just a little kitty, I can't handle this. And you can see he's really distraught in the Ultra Beast world too. It's like, oh, poor Gusama, I nearly forgot his name for a minute. Poor Gusama. Oh, he acted tough, but really showed his true colours at the end there. And even he says, woo, she's crazy. She's just lost it. I can't handle this. So that's pretty much Team Skull in a nutshell. Just misfits who couldn't fit in and had to make up their own rules. And you can see that as well in the Team Skull headquarters. It's just, they've just taken over. It's just their own way, and they just don't care because they just don't fit into the stigma. And of course we have Lucamine. I've briefly pretty much gone over her. Seems like the, goody two-shoes, loves all Pokemon. And then when the Ultra Beast finally does appear at the Aether Paradise, you could tell just there, it's like, oh, I gotta save this beautiful. But just that look in the eye, it's like, yeah, there's just something about you that's just a little bit off. I think you're a few cogs short of a working clock. But that's where I question, did the Ultra Beast actually possess her there and then, or was she actually after the Ultra Beast all that time? It was just like a hidden agenda until it was finally revealed. That's what made me question Lucamine quite a fair bit. Was it the possession then? Because you could see when she's in Mother Beast form, she is fully possessed by the, I can't pronounce the Ultra Beast name, I'm just going to call it Ultra Beast 1, the jellyfish thing. And it fully possessed her by that stage. So did it possess her then, or was she just complete psychopath by that stage? Just driven by madness and power. Which is what we've seen by previous villains of the past, is they're all driven by power. They want something that's beyond normal human being greed. So that's kind of a questionable thing there. I don't think there's any other main characters that I feel I should talk about. I mean, heck, there's all like the trial captains and everything, but you kind of see them on screen for like a little bit, and then they just do their job, and then you just don't see them again. Especially like Sophocles, who was like the electric troll. He's like the brains of all the captains. Was able to build a machine to summon forth the totem Pokemon. There was like obviously you met Mallow a little bit. She is like a cooking person. She's got a very hard trial if you went with Populo. Then was like Ilma. I don't know. Ilma was kind of a, I guess, introduction to it and everything. Not really much I could say there. It's kind of a typical, I guess, gym leader style thing. I don't know. It was just, I didn't really enjoy any of them. It was kind of like just beat them and on I go. Very similar to gym leaders. But also on the topic of the Trials Day, I had a feeling right from the start that I may not enjoy the Trial Captain's challenges compared to gym leaders. I still stick to that to this day. I still reckon that the trials may be more of a side thing. Like you go off to the side and you just do them in order to progress the story rather than just have it as your main focus. I still prefer going through and having the target of beating a gym leader. It just feels more satisfying, whereas some of the trials was like, go through, obviously all of them were focusing on taking out totem Pokemon, which at times were quite challenging. Look at Wishy-Washy, that was quite challenging. Then it was Komomo, I think that's what the Pokemon's name was. The dragon fighting type Pokemon, that was indeed a challenge. I actually blacked out the first time I did that. That was extremely challenging, but there was other ones. It was like, just beat a wild Pokemon, ta-da, we're done. It just didn't feel like a challenge. And even then, on the way to the tournament Pokemon, it just wasn't satisfying. I beat it, but there was no sense of satisfaction. There was like the quiz, there was like quizzes, there's finding items. They were just not satisfying. I mean, heck, even the item fighting challenge, you'd find an item and then you'd encounter a wild Pokemon. If you went through like Litten, that was nothing. Populo, yeah, that's a little bit harder, but at the end, there was no satisfaction at all. I kind of felt satisfaction-less. Very unsatisfied indeed. So, bit of mixed feelings on that one. Some of them have done it brilliantly, but others just, as I said, just left a horrible taste in my mouth. It's like, oh, I definitely don't like this. So I kind of hope in the next game they kind of make a good mix where there is like gym leaders or something that I can actually feel satisfied in beating, and then have something like the trials as a side thing, as a way of, yes, you do need to beat this in order to progress, but not as a main thing though. It was an awesome idea, and I will give Game Freak credit for trying something new, which is definitely what they've done in Pokemon Sun and Moon. There is a lot of new things going on. Worth risking it to try and see if it's a thing. But in my opinion, it fell very short. Just plainly because I just didn't feel satisfied at the end of it. It just was no accomplishment felt. And that was a big downer for me. It's like, I can't explain that one. I just didn't feel right at the end of it. Same thing with the Z moves as well. Again, going with something new. I guess it was very similar to Mega Evolution. At the start, I was kind of like, oh, this is kind of cool. Pokemon going further in their evolutions. And in between the Z moves and the Mega Evolutions, I kind of still prefer Mega Evolutions, even though I'm not a huge fan of using them. It did bring something new to the table in regards to competitive, but at the same time, Z moves kind of fall flat. Yes, something interesting in regards to competitive, but again, if you are a competitive user, you've got to kind of choose, do I go with the Z move, which can be used once per battle? Once it's used, I can't use it again, or do I use a move or an item I know will suffice in a Pokemon battle, like a Life Orb or an Everlight, or a Choice Band or Choice Scarf? Yeah, I mean, heck, I do like the fact that Splash gets an upgrade if you use Z-Splash. It gives you a +3, even though beforehand Splash is useless. The actual move itself is still useless, besides the +3. Belly Drum got a huge buff. Not only giving it +6, but it also heals the Pokemon, so you heal up, then you lose the half health, making a lot of Belly Drum Pokemon viable again, like Hariyama. Zumel got even stronger. There's like so many Z moves that bring a little bit extra, but some others, it just, I gotta wonder if that'll even be used. But as I said, like, I do give credit where credit is due. Trying out new things is indeed something that every developer has to try out sometime. Try and change up the formula, see if people like it. If they don't, then revert back to the previous game formulas and all that, and keep going till you get a nice mix where everyone's happy. But at the same time, that could be like an unpopular opinion of mine, where other people could enjoy Z moves, others may not. Again, personal preference. But as I said, it's still early days. Z moves could be quite a thing in VGC. Well, some of them may be, others may not. Another thing I kind of don't like about Z moves that I enjoyed about Mega Revolutions, once you saw the animation once, that was it. It just cut straight to the point. Z moves, every time you use a Z move, there is an animation. It is so long, but again, at the start, it's awesome to watch some of the animations, but after a while, it's like, I gotta sit down and watch this for like, I think it's like 10 seconds, some of them may be a bit longer. It just kind of drags out and it gets a bit stale after a while, especially if you're using the Z move quite a fair bit. But that's just, again, another little gripe that I have. It's a personal gripe, don't pitchfork me for it. Now, let's go on to another positive feature. Poké Rides. Yes! This is like one of the biggest positives, and I think something we've been asking for as a community for a long time. Get rid of those HMs, please. I mean, not all of them. Some of them are quite handy, like Waterfalls, Surf, maybe a few others. I mean, heck, Rockline was handy if you could Poké Transport it, of course, but it's still nice that they have kind of put the HMs as TMs. I know Fly was in there, Surf was in there. I'm pretty sure Waterfall's in there. I haven't seen the Waterfall TM yet, but I'm assuming it's in there somewhere, so we can still use it in competitive and all that. But things like Flash and Cut, maybe not so much. I do personally use Strength now and again on some Pokemon, especially like sometimes in my early games with like HM Slabs. I used to use Strength as another way of getting through early game, was quite handy on some Pokemon. So, I guess it's kind of a, that it's handy in one way, they've gotten rid of it, in other ways not so much. But I definitely do enjoy the Poké Rides. This is kind of interesting because I'm kind of like in between here. Like the way that they've done it or set it up and the way that you use it is kind of cool. You can shortcut 4 of them that you like and then just use them. So I'm guessing you'd have like 4 main ones that you use and then you shortcut them. So you have like the Charizard Poké Rider, your Sharpedo Poké Rider. Do you use any other ones? Taurus maybe, or Stoutland, whichever one you prefer. Mudsdale you can only use at certain parts. But let's go on with the Charizard thing though. The way you fly about the map. It's claustrophobic. I kind of preferred the whole flying map we had beforehand. Now everything just feels so claustrophobic. I mean, I've used it a few times and it's still annoying to navigate. It's like I've got to move through and I've got to make sure I'm flying to the right Pokemon Center. I don't know if it's because I'm still not familiar with the island layout or anything, but getting used to it, it just feels so claustrophobic and it's annoying. I hate claustrophobic menus. It's like, oh, it'd be just easier if I like scroll through a little bit or find quicker ways of getting to islands. I've got to obviously scroll between different islands to get to certain places, and I've got to look through the menu to make sure I'm going to the right place. I have accidentally flown to the wrong place before because of how quickly it flies there, especially if you're pressing the A button a lot. Yeah, I just don't know about that one. Maybe because, as I said, early days, still getting used to it. It just feels claustrophobic. Maybe speak to me in a month's time, I could have a different opinion on that one. But I'm going to stick with my guns at the moment, say it's kind of claustrophobic for now. But the whole idea of Poké Rides, I definitely enjoyed them. The whole idea of you choose 4 Pokemon on your D-pad, shortcut them, and then use them on the fly, which is awesome. And the fact that they've kind of kept the HMs around. They even refer to the whole HM moves as being HM moves. You talk to the person who gives you the fly TM. Sorry, I gotta get now used to call them TMs again. She actually says back in the Johto region they refer to this as a really important HM because everyone uses it, and they actually explain what HM is for those who aren't familiar with it, which is of course Hidden Machine. I just felt that was a kind of nice little nod there, referring to it as what it was, a HM. Now there was another thing as well that I kind of wish that they dived more into with Sun and Moon. In the previous games, if you wanted lore and all that, you had to search for it. And in Sun and Moon, I tried my very best to see how much lore I could actually find on the background. I didn't bother after a while because they kind of just told you, but in one of the libraries, they do actually go through and do give you a bit of lore, but other than that, there is so little lore to be found. It's, because as I said, they kind of tell you, instead of showing you, it's like, oh goodness great, or letting you go out and actually find it. So again, going back to the whole, I kind of wish they would let you find certain things rather than just telling you, so it gives that sense of discovery type of thing. I mean, heck, I do feel very satisfied that I went into the library and read through books and everything, found out more lore on the Tapus, which was really cool because it made it so much more satisfying to read, learning all about the Tapus and how they're like really destructive at one point. Just instead of like going through and having like an NPC tell me or something like that, it just wouldn't have felt so meaningful, or I wouldn't have cared if they told me. I would like, oh, that's just blah. Shush, let me play the game. Instead, I would actually go out, find it, and be like, oh, that is such really cool, and in a mood where I like actually care. So again, could be an unpopular opinion in regards to how much dialogue and how much they actually tell you. So I'm going to quickly go back because I think I got to cover one more character. Samson Oak. Oh my goodness gracious me. Best character, 16, nearly 2017. Definitely a good nod back to Professor Odd. Wow, English, where have you gone? Professor Oak there. Instead of like being a professor that tells you like how to go about your Pokedex and all that, he actually gives you almost like Pokedex readings of the Alola Pokemon. He's actually there studying the Alola region exclusive Pokemon. So you could find him on the overworld, you talk to him, he gives you like little hints and tells you a little about the Alolan exclusive Pokemon. So if you didn't know anything about the Alolan region Pokemon beforehand, you'd learn a little bit about from him, and they kind of like tell you little nods that you wouldn't actually learn for the Pokédex. For example, like Yellow and Grimer, they eat garbage, and if they don't have garbage to eat, they actually eat buildings. So they're there for like sustainability, which is really cool. And again, I can almost go on for the whole video talking about different themes in Pokemon Sun and Moon that I've kind of learnt from the actual game themselves, like man-made versus natural and all that, and sustainability. But I'm going to leave that out for now. As I said, I may do a whole video on it. Just very deep themes indeed, which Sun and Moon had plenty of them. So there's like a few other things as well. There's like the Festival Plaza, the Poképalago, Hyper Trading and all that as well for features that I, at the moment, have not gone through personally and had a go at. I've just been focusing on main game and learning on my Pokemon. So maybe down the track I may do something on them. I know for a fact I'll be doing something on Hyper Trading and Festival Plaza and Poképalago, so maybe I'll talk about it then. So just going back to something I quickly redirected from because I kind of felt talking about the characters. Let's go back to the actual Pokemon themselves. So this generation released 81 new Pokemon, and as I said, they're all really unique. Really unique Pokemon, as I said, really cool looking. Competitive wise, they're all extremely slow. So Trick Room definitely got a good boost here. I have to kind of draw onto the Ultra Beasts as their own little entity here. Now, a lot of those, again, who are familiar with my podcast would remember me saying, I don't know what to think of these Ultra Beasts. Having to see them in their context now in Pokemon Sun and Moon, they kind of actually are conceptually really, well, ingenious in a way. They're meant to be almost like extraterrestrial, like almost alien to the Pokemon world, because that was something I actually said was, I don't know what to think of these Pokemon. Do you even consider them Pokemon? They're more like alien to the world, very foreign to the Pokemon world, and that's really what they are. They're extraterrestrial Pokemon, almost aliens. Even like some of them look very alien-like. I mean, you look at Ultra Beast 1, I think it's like Neoligo. I am gonna butcher these Pokemon. I haven't had a chance to learn them. It's like Buzzwole. Oh, Buzz looks so cool in Pokemon battles. He's like very buff and everything. Then you look at the bottom half, it's like insect-like since he is a bug-type Pokemon. It's like, oh, it's very creepy, but at the same time, woo, that's really cool. And then a Pheromosa, who's definitely very alien-looking like. And you got Zerk 3, looks like a whole bunch of electrical cords. You got Celesteela, very UFO looking like. Then you got Katana, it's like, I don't even know, satellite looking like. And then you got Guzzlord, it's like, oh god, that is definitely weird looking. So, when you look at that point away, because they even had their own dimension you go through thanks to like the legendary Pokemon. And you're like, yeah, they're very alien-like. They don't even come from the Pokemon world. They had like their own little dimension, which is definitely a thing. Going back to legendary Pokemon as well, just the whole plot twist is there as well as being our first legendary Pokemon to have actual evolution lines. This is excluding, of course, Manaphy. Doesn't really have an evolution. It can have an egg, but that then Phione doesn't evolve into Manaphy, of course. It's just a standalone Pokemon on its own. But these Pokemon, Cosmog then evolves into Cosmone? I can't remember what it's called, but it's like a weird shaped looking Pokemon, and then evolves into, of course, your cover legendary Pokemon. So in Pokemon Sun it's Solgaleo, and Pokemon Moon it's Lunala. Both awesome looking Pokemon. I can understand, of course, the Cosmog evolving into Lunala, but I can't grip it for Solgaleo. I just can't see it. I really can't. It makes sense for Lunala, but not for Solgaleo. So, I don't know. Maybe if they had like a Sun version of it that made it kind of made sense. Kind of Solgaleo. Here we go again. I'm like nitpicking at evolutions. It's Pokemon. None of it makes sense unless you read mythology. Sometimes it makes sense there if you read up on the mythology of a Pokemon. Don't quite know this mythology line, so maybe if I read that it'd make more sense. But just going at it subjectively, just makes absolutely no sense. And then we'll go quickly into customization. I think that'll do it. I think I've covered everything. There is like a lot to cover, and because I'm doing this all unscripted, I'm probably going to forget something. Is the customization. Again, kind of reiterating my podcast yes, it's back. Hurrah! And from what I've seen so far, again, haven't personally dived into this yet, it looks awesome. They've done a really good job with customization, again, kind of being a throwback to the customization seen on Pokemon Battle Revolution, and it even being on par of like Pokémon Tournaments customization. I heavily praise Pokémon Tournaments customization for being how extensive it was. You had like one top where you could change its color and everything, quite a lot to choose from as well. Pokemon Sun and Moon has actually done that, except not so much on par with Pokemon Tournament. You can't like choose something and then change its color. I do believe it's just like a set color. Kind of a shame actually. So you can do all that. I think you can change your hairstyle. I have seen a haircut, but I think that might be for Furfrou, which we can't see yet until January when Pokebank comes out. So overall, as I said, I did heavily enjoy Pokemon Sun and Moon. The second half I really, really, really enjoyed. The first half, though, was kind of a snore. And I will admit, when I first started playing Pokemon Sun and Moon, I was very iffy. Extremely iffy, thinking I'm not going to enjoy this game. There was nothing there for me to enjoy. It was so slow to the stage of I was bored. It almost felt like I was almost forcing myself to play the game. I'm so glad I did, though. It was worth playing through to the end. And as I said on Twitter recently, I cannot wait to jump into competitive Pokemon Sun and Moon. There is just so much to grip, so much new combinations I could try out, especially in Trick Room. There are so many slow Pokemon. I cannot wait to try it out. And all the Tapus with their train abilities, again, cannot wait to try them out. The Ultra Beasts, I know are going to be a pain in my rear side, but I'm looking forward to learning how to counter them. I'm really hoping they're not a pain in my rear side, hopefully. Otherwise, VGC 17 might be a bit of a pain. But yeah, overall, there is just so many things to look forward to, competitive-wise, and just playing through the game. I've enjoyed Pokemon Sun and Moon so much, I'm actually deciding to speedrun it next year, which is going to be a fun time to land, because I'm letting another game as well to speedrun, which is, of course, Quest 64. So this is fun, learning 2 games at once. I'm so hoping that I've covered everything, because I don't really want to do another one. I may do a more formal review for this down the track, who knows. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Hopefully you guys had your own opinions on Sun and Moon. I would gladly love to hear them down in the comment section below. Love to hear what you guys think in regards to some of the features I didn't talk about. In regards to the Island Challenge, that's my biggest thing, is did people like them? Did people also agree with me or something like that on the Island Challenge, that it was kind of should have been played out as a side thing rather as a main thing? The whole Pokemon League thing, I should have talked over that, but overall thoughts on that was hard. Kind of liked it though, how they brought back some familiar faces there. Even familiar faces as well as NPCs was really fun, but again, kind of too much to talk about informally. So yeah, Pokemon Sun and Moon stuff should return. I kind of had to do this on the fly. I was going to do this later down the track, but things have come up. I've had to slow stuff down in regards to Sun and Moon uploading. So hopefully that comes back next week. I'm looking forward to doing that. But anyways, guys, that's it from me. Again, thank you so much for sitting through all this. Hope you guys enjoyed it. And again, leave your thoughts and opinions down in the comment section below. And until next time, this is Lady KrimZen saying ciao for now, but not forever. Ciao.